What's going on, everybody? A very happy Monday. Hope everyone's doing great out there. Welcome. It is Pushing the Limits. Very busy news day. A lot to get to, a lot to go over today. And welcome everybody who's on my personal YouTube page first, of course, at PTL Radio Show. The website is pushingthelimits.live. And we are also, of course, on the Occupy Democrats Network. We are everywhere, on TikTok, on Twitch, you name it, we're on it, and we appreciate you being a part of the show. We're also in the YouTube Super Chat, as you can see. For anybody out there who makes a donation of $25 or more, you're going to be automatically entered into a chance to do a segment with me next month. We're going to choose one lucky winner. So thank you all for joining us. Very excited to have Lev Parnes. This is Rudy Giuliani's former Ukraine fixer who was sentenced to 20 months in jail. I know Lev personally. He is very anti-Trump now, and he speaks to the side of truth over power. And Lev Parnes has a very big announcement to make on this very show, news that he's going to break, and he'll be joining us coming up here at the bottom of the hour. All right, folks, I'm going to get right into it. We are in a constitutional crisis this morning, and today might have been the most vile and most disgusting display, quite frankly, in any president in my lifetime. So the Trump administration and El Salvador's president, Bukele, have announced that they are refusing to return Kilmar Garcia, who happens to be an innocent man, illegally deported and locked up in this El Salvador prison. We heard a lot of lies today, and we are going to go through it with you, and we are going to dissect it. But Marco Rubio flat out lied today in this press conference, claiming that Garcia was here illegally. There's clear evidence that that is not true. Stephen Miller also lying and spinning today, claiming that a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling somehow was a twisted win for the Trump administration. That's also a lie. And then Trump decided to lash out at Caitlin Collins from CNN, and we're going to play that audio for you as well. And it didn't even end there, because once again, Donald Trump is blaming Vladimir Zelensky and Ukraine for the war, when Russia just killed 34 innocent people on Palm Sunday. And the conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues when Donald Trump said he would end the war within 24 hours. So we have a constitutional crisis on our hands. I don't think there's any question about that. And as I mentioned, the president of El Salvador will not be returning Garcia. And Trump is not only refusing to bring him back, but he's lying about the Supreme Court ruling to do so as well. Now, this is the point where the president of El Salvador, one dictator to another, and yes, that's what I'm calling Donald Trump. He is officially a dictator who doesn't care about the Constitution, doesn't care about the rule of law, doesn't care about innocent people, clearly. But if you beat police officers on Jan 6, somehow that makes you a patriot. But this is the president of El Salvador lying to everybody, the world, saying, oh, you know what? I don't have the power to bring this guy back. Have a listen to this.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside of Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
But this guy's not a criminal. What are you talking about, Mr. President? You don't want to release criminals back into your country. It's been proven that this guy is not a criminal. What the hell are you talking about? They're lying. He's not a criminal. The Supreme Court just ruled that you should be brought back to this country. What are you talking about? He's not a criminal. And then there's spineless Marco Rubio. Yes, that's right. Spineless little Marco. This guy has a law degree. And there is no confusion. Or he said there was confusion. No, there's no confusion. The United States Supreme Court issued on this ruling, and listen to Marco Rubio spin it and lie today.
I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned
to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President, no, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
Marco Rubio is lying. There is no confusion. The United States Supreme Court has clearly issued a ruling here. Trump is required by law to request the individual be sent back to the United States of America. That is a fact. I don't understand what the confusion is or what Marco Rubio is talking about, other than the fact that he's just lying to the American people. And then there's Caitlin Collins. CNN's very own Caitlin Collins is asking Donald Trump a very simple question, and it's a poignant one. And the question is, very, very simply put, you just said, Mr. President, the other day, that if the Supreme Court did not rule in your favor, you would respect the Supreme Court's decision. And it turns out right now, they're not doing that. You're not doing that. Very simple question, but Donald Trump responds in only the way he can, which is to deflect and say and attack the person who asked a very simple question. Listen to this interaction between Caitlin Collins and Donald Trump.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
You have no credibility. Donald Trump just said Caitlin Collins of CNN has no credibility. Why didn't you answer the question, Mr. Dictator President? You just said on Air Force One the other day that you would respect a Supreme Court ruling even if it wasn't in your favor. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0. You're not respecting the Supreme Court's ruling. Why did you lie? Well, who are you with? Where are you from? You don't have any credibility. Nobody's watching you. That wasn't the question, Mr. President. As I said before, and I say again, this is a constitutional crisis. This is a dictatorship. This is an oligarchy. We are talking now about the Supreme Court, which is, by the way, stacked with conservatives. And you have Marco Rubio, who's lying. You have Stephen Miller, who's trying to spin this 9-0 ruling that was against him as some sort of win. You have Donald Trump, who's not answering direct questions. You have the president of El Salvador, who's a mini dictator. This is vile stuff. They're gaslighting. It's despicable. It's disgusting. And you have an innocent man in this El Salvador prison. An innocent man, and it hasn't even been proven that he's undocumented. And they refuse to send him back. Forget about even a nonviolent criminal, right, with no criminal record. We're not even sure he's undocumented, according to the Supreme Court. And they refuse to bring him back. And then you have Donald Trump talking to this man, the president of El Salvador, saying we need more of these prisons so we can send Americans there and torture Americans. And then he lashes out at Caitlin Collins. Folks, do we see the situation that we are in right now? Do we see where we're at right now as a country? These people don't get any due process. The Supreme Court could rule one way. It's unbelievable. This is a constitutional crisis. This is a serious problem. This is something that is only going to get worse over time. And while all this was going on, we all know that Donald Trump's promise to end the war with Russia and Ukraine doesn't seem to be going very well, because now he's still blaming Joe Biden and he's blaming Vladimir Zelensky. Yes, that's right. The President of the United States said once again this morning that Ukraine and Zelensky started the war. Have a listen to this.
President Zelensky serve out his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. You know, he's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size, and then hope that people give you some missiles.
So again, Donald Trump is blaming Vladimir Zelensky for the war. And just a reminder to all of you, this war started back in February of 2014. Trump was president for 4 years during the conflict and did nothing to try to end it. In fact, he was impeached for trying to extort Zelensky during that time, if you recall. Then, running for president, he made the case that he could end this war within 24 hours. In fact, he said he would end it before he even got back into office. How's that working out? Well, there was another strike where a bunch of innocent people in Ukraine, some of whom women and children, lost their lives. And Donald Trump only characterized it as a mistake. He called it a mistake. Yeah, it was a mistake. And then he starts blaming Zelensky, starts blaming Ukraine. How's that working out? I'll end the war in 24 hours. How's that working out, Mr. President? All I have to do is pick up the phone. More innocent people have lost their lives in this war, and Donald Trump's only response to that? It was a mistake. You know what was a mistake? People voting for this man again. That was the mistake here. And no, Mr. President, Ukraine did not start this war. Vladimir Putin is an evil dictator. He invaded Ukraine, and there were more strikes over the weekend, and more innocent people in Ukraine died. And all Donald Trump could do is say or blame it on Ukraine and blame it on Zelensky, because Donald Trump is not capable of calling out Vladimir Putin for who he is. And it's despicable, and it's disgusting, and it's evil. And we have Kilmar Garcia, who Trump refuses to bring him back, even though the Supreme Court ruled that needs to happen, the vote of 9-0. What are we doing in this country? What is going on here? What is going on in this country right now? This is getting worse and worse by the day. I don't care what these MAGA morons say. This is getting worse by the day. This is a dictatorship. Bernie Sanders was right. This is an oligarchy. We have an innocent man with no due process that was sent to one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world. The Supreme Court rules 9-0 to bring him back, and then Donald Trump is meeting with the president of El Salvador, and they say they're not going to bring him back. Not to mention the 70% of all those 267 people that were sent over there, and we learned that 70% of them have no criminal record at all. Could happen to you. Could happen to me. They have no respect for the rule of law. They have no respect for the Constitution. Marco Rubio lying to the American people. Stephen Miller lying to the American people. Donald Trump lying to the American people. And then you have the mini dictator, president of El Salvador, lying. Calling this guy a criminal when the Supreme Court said, no, he's not a criminal. Send him back. This was a mistake. If Donald Trump is willing to defy not just local judges or federal judges, but he's willing to defy the Supreme Court, what is next on his agenda? Think about that for a minute. A conservative Supreme Court. And he's defying them as well. What's next for the Trump administration? Do we have no laws anymore? What's next? He only agrees with judges if they rule in his favor. If they rule against him, he doesn't care. He goes along with his plan. If this doesn't concern you, I don't know what to tell you, because it certainly concerns me. What are we doing? What is going on here? This is what I've had to watch this morning in this press conference, which infuriates me. Imagine if you're this man's family. Imagine if you're a member of the Garcia family and you just want your loved one to come back home. Thank God the Supreme Court ruled in our favor. Yes, he's not a criminal. He might not even be undocumented. They ruled, bring him back. And then you see Donald Trump saying, nope, not going to happen. The president of El Salvador, no, we're not going to release criminals into our country. He's not a criminal. And I'll tell you something that really got my blood boiling over the weekend. Really got my blood boiling. If that's not enough of what took place this morning, you're going to want to hear my take on this. So I want to talk to you about Bill Maher. Now, I've been watching Bill Maher on television for years. I've met Bill Maher multiple times. In fact, I had the chance and the opportunity to hang out with him and meet him for a little bit. When he came to Vegas about 6-7 years ago, I hung out with him backstage for a good 15, 20 minutes. We were talking. Never liked him, personally. I always thought he was snotty. He thought that as you know what didn't stink. I never liked him personally. Did I watch his show? Yes. Is he a smart guy? Yes. I've been very disappointed with Bill Maher of the course of the last year or two. He's changed and he's caved, just like Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. I don't think this is any different. But Bill Maher visited the White House and was invited to have dinner with Donald Trump with his friend Bobby, also known as Kid Rock, and Dana White, the woman abuser. And I said to myself, I don't have a problem with going over to the White House to have a conversation with Donald Trump. What I would have a problem with is if he doesn't push back at all. Well, it was worse than that, because he did a lot of praising of Donald Trump in this 2.5 hours. Now, I compare this meeting very similar to a man going on a date with a woman, and maybe he's not a good guy, and he only wants to get something from her, if you know what I'm saying, so he puts on an act. That's what Donald Trump did for Bill Maher in this 2.5 hour dinner. And Bill Maher knows that, but he's lying to all of you, because he's a scumbag. And I have no problem saying that now. This is Bill Maher on his show making the case that the lunatic that he only claimed was in the White House is not there. We don't have a crazy man living in the White House. He said that. Have a listen to this.
The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner shit-tweeted a bunch of nasty crap about how he thought this dinner was a bad idea and what a deranged asshole I was. I read it and thought, oh, what a lovely way to welcome someone to your house. But when I got there, that guy wasn't living there.
When I got there, that guy wasn't living there. No, Bill, he is. And just because he was nice to you for 2.5 hours and he put on an act, taking you to dinner on the little date you two had, doesn't mean he's not the same lunatic. But because he was nice to you and you guys exchanged pleasantries and he laughed and asked you about certain things and you guys got along for 2.5 hours, somehow that means he's not a lunatic living in the White House? What an idiot you are. You're lying to your listeners, and you're only doing that so you can keep your show on HBO. And Keith Olbermann's right, because he absolutely destroyed you, and he's right. And you're smarter than that. You're feeding us BS. He was nice to you, so we don't have a lunatic in the White House because he was nice to me for 2.5 hours. What a lunatic. What a crazy person. That'd be like if Marjorie Taylor Greene took me to dinner, which, by the way, I wouldn't accept. But hypothetically speaking, right, if he took me to dinner, or she, did I say he? That was a Freudian slip. If he or she took me to dinner and was nice to me for 2 hours, would I say Marjorie Taylor Greene seems like a decent person? We don't have a lunatic in Congress. No, of course I wouldn't say that, because I'm honest and I'm not a sellout like he is. And here's Bill Maher making the case that he was so impressed that he never heard Donald Trump laugh before, as if that it's incredible. Have a listen to this.
Just for starters, he laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it.
Yeah, I bet you do. Ha, ha, ha. I bet you do. So because Donald Trump laughed at a couple of your jokes, whether they were phony laughs or real laughs, somehow that normalizes him and you want to normalize him on your show? What a joke. And here's a very interesting clip. And I actually believe Bill Maher when he says this, that Donald Trump actually admitted he lost the 2020 election. But somehow in private, when he admits that he lost, that makes it better. Have a listen to this interaction that Bill Maher had with Donald Trump when he talked about the fact that Donald Trump admitted that he lost. Listen to this.
At one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine.
Yeah. No, my mind isn't blown. I just think that you're a scumbag and a two-faced liar. You're trying to normalize this man because for a 2.5-hour dinner, he was nice to you. I'm sure he was nice to Kanye West and Nick Fuentes as well. But that doesn't mean he's a nice person, and it doesn't mean this is the real Donald Trump. This was an act. He conned you, but I don't believe he actually conned Bill Maher. You're conning your listeners, some of the people that watch your show, but I don't think Bill Maher was conned. I think this is a load of crap. And I'm going to prove in a few moments why he's a hypocrite, at a minimum. And this is the point where Bill Maher says that he didn't have to feel like he was walking on eggshells, and he actually normalized Donald Trump more than even a Barack Obama, which this is what really blows my mind. Have a listen to this.
And of course, it makes sense that Arab countries should take in Arab refugees, like the million Syrians who wound up in Germany when Saudi Arabia took none. He said to me, you're right, they took none. I said, well, you should remind your boyfriend in Saudi Arabia that the next time you see him. He laughed. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will.
You're trying to normalize Donald Trump, and you're saying you felt comfortable, or he made you feel comfortable because he put on some sort of act, and you're trying to normalize him and saying that, I wouldn't have been able to make these jokes around Barack Obama. By the way, I don't believe that. Barack Obama does have a sense of humor, but you're sitting next to a guy who was a liable sexual abuser. You're sitting next to a guy who's had 25 women that have accused him of assaulting and abusing them. You're talking to a guy who's a 34-count felon who bragged about assault. And yet you're normalizing him and trying to make the case that he made you feel really comfortable. You didn't have to walk on eggshells with him. And I wouldn't have been able to have done the same thing with Barack Obama. What a scumbag you are, Bill Maher. What a two-faced prick you are. You've always been a snot, and all you care about is ratings and making money. You have never stayed true to yourself, and you are a phony. And this is him, again, making the case that a lunatic is not in the White House. Have a listen to this.
The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before. And there's Trump in one of their stories, standing at a podium in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in. And he's ranting, disgusting, you're a terrible person. And I'm like, who's that guy? What happened to Glinda the Good Witch? And why can't we get the guy I met to be the public guy? And I'm not saying it's our responsibility to do that. It's not. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw over 2.5 hours. I went into the mine, and that's what's down there. A crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives there, which I know is fucked up. It's just not as fucked up as I thought it was.
So let me get this right. Bill Maher is saying that because Donald Trump treated him with respect and he didn't appear to be crazy in a 2.5-hour dinner, that means that we don't have a crazy person in the White House. He just plays one? No. Let me correct the record for this two-faced piece of garbage, and that's what I'm going to call Bill Maher. He's a two-faced piece of garbage. He put out an act for you. The real Donald Trump is the guy that abuses women. The real Donald Trump is the guy that lies. The real Donald Trump is the guy that won't concede an election. The real Donald Trump is the thin-skinned man who's attacked women on looks. He's attacked POWs. He's attacked Gold Star families. He's attacked people in Mexico and minorities and tells them to go to their S-hole countries, go back to their S-hole countries. That's the real Donald Trump. He's not playing one. He's a lunatic. He's a terrible human being. He's a convicted felon. He's a woman abuser. That's the real Donald Trump. That is not an act. The act is the way he treated you for 2.5 hours with the homophobic moron, Kid Rock, and the woman abuser, Dana White. You are who you hang out with. And Bill Maher, you're friends with Kid Rock, the man who hurls homophobic slurs at his concerts, the trash Kid Rock that he is. You are hanging out with Dana White, the man who slaps his wife in public. These are the people that Bill Maher hangs out with, and I am ready to put Bill Maher in the same category as Donald Trump. They're phony, they're two-faced, they treat women as objects, and they're not good people. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, but before I do that, I'm going to prove to you right now what a two-faced phony Bill Maher is, with audio that I found on his show 7 years ago. Yes, that's right. So 7 years ago, and I am amazed that the media is not playing this, but I will. 7 years ago, Bill Maher had Geraldo Rivera on his show. And for years, Geraldo Rivera was very close to Donald Trump. They called themselves friends. And at that time, Bill Maher was very aggressive, very anti-Donald Trump. Surely he's changed now. But Bill Maher was criticizing Geraldo Rivera for the same stuff that he did the other day. Have a listen to this exchange with Bill Maher questioning Geraldo Rivera. You should be a smarter guy than this. Why are you coddling to Trump? Why are you caving? Look at all the things he's done. The exact same stuff that Bill Maher is doing now. And it proves that he is a hypocrite, a two-faced hypocrite. Have a listen to this from 7 years ago.
You know Trump is my friend. I've known Trump for 40 years. I don't have to. I don't have to.
He didn't.
So did Trump.
He didn't.
So did Trump. I interviewed Trump
He
about
didn't
OJ during
remain
the
my
trial.
friend when I felt he had a certain moral lapse.
Well, in my family, my wife agrees with you. She doesn't like his policies on so many things that I already listed, so she just can't stand the guy. I'm different. I can separate the man who's always been gracious to me, always been nice to my family. You know, we were on Celebrity Apprentice together every day for 6 weeks. I've known him really through every aspect.
Shit. He's running the world now. What does that matter that he was nice to you at Thanksgiving? Geraldo, I'm not trying to be an asshole to you. You're a smart guy. This befuddles me. I looked up to you.
Interesting. That's exactly what Bill Maher is doing now. Listen to Bill. By the way, I agree with Bill Maher there. And Geraldo Rivera has, to his credit, is no longer friends with Donald Trump, and he speaks out against Trump. Bill Maher just said it. Who gives a you-know-what if he was gracious to you? Bill Maher's doing the exact same thing. Who gives an F if Donald Trump was gracious to you for 2.5 hours of your time? That doesn't change the things he does. It doesn't mean he's not a crazy lunatic like you claim he is. And this really pisses me off, gets my blood boiling, because I am able to separate the BS when it comes to Bill Maher. He knows who Donald Trump is. He knows he was just playing nice to him, and he's lying to his listeners because Bill Maher is a scumbag. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Maher is a two-faced, phony, scumbag hack. And he's trying to save his show on HBO, so he's trying to play both sides. And it's damaging. And anybody who believes this nonsense, listen, I believe Bill Maher when he says that Trump was nice to him. I don't think he's lying about that. He's lying to you when he says, well, you know what? I was mesmerized by this. And you know, I think he just plays a crazy person in the White House. But we don't have a crazy person in the White House. Yes, we do. I'll take a few phone calls on this Bill Maher stuff. I don't know if it bothers you as much as it bothers me. We have Lev Parnes coming up here in a few, but I'll take some calls first before Lev joins us on the show. The number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, that number, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Am I overreacting to this, or do you agree with me that Bill Maher is a two-faced phony hypocrite? He said the same thing about Geraldo Rivera. Who cares if he was gracious to you? Doesn't change the fact that he's this, and this. Bill Maher's doing the same thing that Geraldo Rivera did back in the day. Because Bill Maher is a two-faced scumbag. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm overreacting here? I don't think I am. I really don't. I also want to go to the YouTube Super Chat, which we will hear in just a few minutes, but let's take some phone calls first. So that number is 702-221-7283 if you want to be a part of the show. Numchuck, who do we have first up here? Who are we going to first? Let's go to Paul. Paul is first up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
You know, I'm going to officially say today that we are officially a fascist country today, Brian. Well, the way that they you know what bugs me, Brian? It's the dehumanization of people. You know, we have immigrants that are here for 20, 30 years that maybe their documentation's not right. They pay taxes, they raise their family, they go to church, and we're going in there, we're grabbing them out of churches, synagogues, we're putting them in shackles with 10 guards, putting them on an airplane like they're cattle. We're demonizing. It's just disgusting, Brian. It is absolutely disgusting that we illegally deported a guy, and we're just disregarding the Supreme Court, and the guy is probably having unspeakable things done to him right now. And then you have Bill Maher, who was bending the knee and got his head so far up Donald Trump's ass, he's like, oh, he's a nice guy. He said good things about me. I don't know what kind of country this is, Brian, but we're not even the greatest country in North America. Am I off base here?
Right now, we're not. And you know, I'm very disgusted with Bill Maher. I would say disappointed is not the correct word. I'm disgusted because there are people like the Joe Scarboroughs and the Mika Brzezinskis and others that now are kissing the ring of Donald Trump, and they haven't stayed true to who they are. Now, I think Bill Maher has been a phony his entire life. I never liked him. I've interacted with him. I've spoken with him. I've met him in person, and I never liked the guy. I thought he was snotty, and I never liked him. But the fact that he would go on his actual show with all the things he said about Donald Trump and say, well, you know what? He's basically saying he was nice to me and he wined and dined me for 2.5 hours. So I don't think he's the crazy person in the White House that everybody thinks. I think it's just an act. Bill Maher knows that that is not true. He's not a stupid guy. He knows that that's not true. He's lying to his listeners for whatever reasons, to be on Donald Trump's good grace, for ratings, to get Trump on his show. I don't know. But he is a phony, and this is absolutely disgusting.
It is. It's disgusting. It's just, you know, it's gross because I have, and I told you this on your show, I have family members that are victims of rape. And it is absolutely disgusting that this country has tried to normalize this guy. People like Bill Maher. What Bill Maher did was he went down there and he had dinner with a rapist and a convicted felon that led to the death of Officer Sitnik.
Well, that's true.
The only takeaway he had was, oh, he actually laughed. Oh, now my whole perspective changes. It's absolutely disgusting that we've normalized this kind of behavior in our country. It's gross.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I appreciate your call, Paul. I'm with you, my friend, and I appreciate it. Thank you for the call, by the way. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Kathy. Kathy is next up on PTL. Hey, Kathy, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I get you what you say about Bill, 100%, but what really bothers me this weekend is not so much as Bill Maher, but what happened to our governor this weekend with the fire in the governor's mansion. That really upset a lot of people in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
And knowing that it was a MAGA jackass that did it, and possibly did it because of the Seder that the governor had was really disgusting. But what really bothered me about that whole press conference was the person on the right, the policeman that was on the right. I guess he was in charge of the investigation. The guy was just standing there by the governor, smirking his ass off.
I want to add something to what you're saying, and I'm glad you're talking about Josh Shapiro. So in this country, if you're MAGA, if you light a Tesla car on fire, which, by the way, I don't condone, that makes you a domestic terrorist. Have you heard any MAGA Republicans today call this individual a domestic terrorist, somebody who literally wanted to kill Josh Shapiro and his family? Have you heard any MAGA Republicans talk about it? Have you heard Donald Trump talk about it? Have you heard Elon Musk tweet about it? Have you heard any MAGA Republicans call out this violence where the governor of Pennsylvania and his family were almost killed because a MAGA madman decided to torch his place and put it on fire and torture his family? I haven't heard any MAGA Republicans today say this is domestic terrorist. But yet, if you take a key, which I don't condone, but if you take a key and, I don't know, key a Tesla, somehow that makes you a domestic terrorist. But if you try to kill the governor of Pennsylvania, they're mum, they're silent, these MAGA despicable turds, and I've had it.
Amen. Amen. And like I said, when you look at the press conference, that investigator really irked me because he was just standing there just smirking as Governor Shapiro was talking about why we need to tone down the rhetoric in this country and everything like that. I mean, the Governor Shapiro had a very heartfelt speech that he did. I mean, very emotional. And the guy is just standing there. And my question is, how in the heck could they let this guy stay in the mansion and not really focus on getting him before he can do that much damage? I want people to look at the pictures that came out in the mansion. I want people to see exactly how close Governor Shapiro and his family were to being killed within the mansion. It is just disgusting.
It is.
And to know that Bill Maher is sitting down with someone who is enabling this violence, this hatred, it just sickens me to the core.
It sickens me to the core as well, and I'm so glad you brought that up, and we will probably talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the program, and I appreciate your statements. 702-221-7283. By the way, we have Lev Parnes that's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. He's going to be breaking some news with us, so looking forward to talking to him. Let's go to Kowalski, who's joining us next on PTL. Hi, Kowalski.
How you doing, Super Soul?
Hey, good. What's on your mind today?
Well, we're not going to be able to cover all that in a short conversation, but, I mean, if you want to know about, Bill Maher, I've been saying this about him for 2 decades. He's a snake. He's always been a snake.
Yep.
This is not news. Like, I wouldn't be as wound up as you are over this because he's always been this way. This is not new. Well, he's always been a dirtbag.
So I agree with you, but here's why I'm a little wound up, okay? And a lot of it also has to do with this morning and that press conference with Donald Trump and the president of El Salvador, which really, really pissed me off. But here's
right, but I want to skip past all that right now, Brian.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up and say something. Like, this is going to continue to get worse. Everybody listening right now, please, MAGA or not, I don't care who you are. Listen to me right now. This is going to get worse. Because House and Senate is not going to use the tools that they have to remove Donald Trump and this administration, which is the problem. That's the problem. But if they don't use that, that means that there's only one way that he can be removed, and it's not a nice way.
Yeah. Well, Kowalski,
do you understand?
I do understand. But Kowalski,
we're at that point.
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. But Kowalski, let me go back to Bill Maher for a moment. Here's why it bothers me maybe a little bit more than it bothers you. And I agree with what you said about Bill Maher. I've known him to be a scumbag for years. But here's why it bothers me a little bit more. Because he has a lot of listeners. He has a large viewership. And some of them may believe what he is saying. When Bill Maher...
Right, but those are the same people that were going to believe anything that anybody was saying because they like their face or what they're saying.
Well, maybe.
We can't fix that.
Maybe.
And then what's worse is, he's always been this hypocrite. He's always been this kind of guy who's really out for ratings. He doesn't really care what comes out of his mouth as long as he gets listeners. He doesn't care.
Well, you're right. I don't think everybody is like that, but it's why I don't watch Joe Scarborough anymore with Mika Brzezinski, because they're a bunch of phonies. I don't care what
they turn tail out of fear.
Absolutely.
Bill Maher turned tail out of money, and you can tell.
Yeah,
he's completely tongue, like he tongues probably every centimeter of Trump's rectum within the last 46 hours.
You're probably right. Verbally speaking, I agree with you, Kowalski. I appreciate your call. I hear you. Very disappointed in Bill Maher. Listen, I'm watching people that are true to who they are. I'm going to watch people. Now, unfortunately, I do have to watch a little bit of Fox News because I like to hear what they are saying to get the other side, right? But people that I give some credibility to, Manu Raju, for example, Jake Tapper. There are journalists out there that I respect. And I understand that Bill Maher is a comedian, but it doesn't mean if you're a comedian that means you don't have any credibility. Steve Hofstetter is a friend of mine, great comedian, very smart guy. I can talk politics with him until the cows come home. Don't always agree with some of my friends, but I have them on the show anyway, and we have conversations. But Bill Maher is a scumbag. I've interviewed Bill Maher 3 or 4 times. I've met him in person and spent a little bit of time around him a couple times. He's not a good guy. And I'm going to give you all a quick story, and then we're going to have Lev Parnes joining us here. And then we'll get back to the phone call, so everybody sit tight. So this is going back, if you guys remember the Anthony Weiner scandal. I'm sure all of you remember that, the sexting scandal, right? And Anthony Weiner's done this show, by the way, a couple times. So back in the day, when that story first came out, there was a young lady who was a blackjack dealer here in Las Vegas who I reached out to. At the time, I was a reporter, and I was trying to do an interview with her. She didn't want to do an interview with me. However, we became friends. And on Bill Maher's show, he read the transcript between this woman, whose name was Lisa Weiss, and the transcript of the sexting, which I'm sure was very embarrassing to her, between her and Anthony Weiner. And that upset her. She did an interview, and she said that it upset her that Bill, because she was a fan of Bill Maher's, and it embarrassed her. So somebody in Bill Maher's camp reached out to her because he was coming to Vegas to do a show at the Palms. And he said, I'd like to invite you to come to my show as my guest, and let's hang out backstage. Something to that effect. So Lisa invited me, and I was excited. I liked Bill Maher back then, and I enjoyed his stuff, and I was looking forward to meeting him. So we went to the show. She was very nervous. She had a couple drinks because this was her hero. Even back then, I was used to meeting celebrities, so I wasn't like starstruck, but I was looking forward to meeting him. So after the show, we go backstage. And she was very nervous, like I said. We go in there, and he was very, 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 very snotty, right? Short answers, sounded like he didn't want to engage with us, and we were like the only people back there. It was just him backstage, and we were just hanging out. He had nowhere to go. He had just done his show. He's the one who invited her. And my reaction, and I got pictures with him and stuff, but my reaction was, wow, he's really snotty. Didn't really want to engage with us, didn't really want to talk. But then why did you invite this woman then? You said we were your guest, and we wanted to have a discussion backstage. He was very, very off-putting. She told him how much she loved him. He didn't apologize. He didn't say, I'm sorry for what I did. He didn't say thank you, or no pleasantries at all. He just sat there, didn't really want to engage, disinterested. Okay, I could tell. Took a couple pictures with him and then left, and I was very disappointed. I'm like, wow, that guy's a real a-hole. He's very snotty, and I never liked him personally ever since. I met him another time, same way. Same way. And by the way, she was very disappointed as well. The night didn't go like we thought it would. I'm not saying that we were going to go out and get wined and dined like he was wined and dined with Donald Trump. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that he was a snarky SOB back then, two-faced, and that rings today more than ever. And that's why I share that story with all of you. I've always felt that way about Bill Maher, and now I feel it more than ever. He is a two-faced phony. All right, so here's what we are going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Lev Parnes is going to join us. If you don't know who Lev Parnes is, he was Rudy Giuliani's Ukraine fixer. He was sentenced to 20 months in jail, and he's done this show before. He has some big news that he wants to share with us. And in fact, before I take that break, I think we're going to go to him because we want to take some calls when we come back. So joining me right now on the show, as I mentioned, 20 months in jail was sentenced Giuliani's Ukraine fixer. He has since been on the right side of history and calling out Donald Trump and all of his cronies. In fact, he testified under oath in front of Congress, and I have a lot of respect for him. Lev Parnes joining us right now on the program. Lev, it is great to see you, my friend. How are you?
Brian, thank you for having me. It's been a while. It's been great. Right. You hear me good? You hear me good?
Yeah, you were chopping up a little bit there, but I can you hear me okay, Lev?
I hear you good. Yeah. I just feel like I hear myself. Maybe it's
an echo. Okay, we'll try to fix that. Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay, we had an echo, and I think now we're good. You hear me good? Okay, Lev?
Yeah, I hear you great. Perfect.
Great. Sorry about that, Lev. Okay. Good to see you, Lev. Thanks for joining us. I know you have some news that you wanted to share with us, but before we get to that, I wanted to ask you this. What do you make of the press conference this morning with Donald Trump and the president of El Salvador defying the Supreme Court's decision and really running what I would consider is a dictatorship? What do you make of this?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, I know it seems crazy, but one of the things I've been doing, and just to get everybody informed, is I left more or less Twitter because of the platform, and I started, moved over to Substack, where I started writing and started being able to. And actually, this weekend, I broke the news before even you heard it today. Is I had a call, I think it was Saturday, from some of my insiders in Trump world that basically told me that before Trump went over to the fight, he was going over to the UFC fight, that there was conversation that he was going to defy the courts and he was not going to bring him back. And he was laughing at the judges that they were even trying to do it. And today we saw it in plain effect in the Oval. I mean, it was a staged event. You saw Stephen Miller getting up there, doing that whole la-di-da-di, giving that whole speech. It was incredible. I can't even believe they allowed it. And then you see the president of El Salvador sitting there laughing, saying, "Oh, how am I going to allow to get, terrorists back into your country?" And Trump laughing. I mean, it was just really, to me, being born in a Soviet country where it was, communism, where you saw things like that play out, to watch it now being played out in the United States of America, and it's just disgusting. I mean, and then the comments, the hot mic moment. I'm right now actually working behind the scenes. I'm trying to get some things confirmed to see where and how this. I mean, yeah, he said something to the effect of 5. He wants another 5 prisons built. Talking about sending U.S. citizens there. He's pissed off all about that CBS interview, and now he wants to shut down CBS and 60 Minutes. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I mean, and that's not even talk about, Brian, the tariffs and everything else, Doge, and we could sit here for hours. I mean, it's just amazing to see what 80 days of Trump. And we used to speak about it. I remember last time I saw you when I was in Vegas. I was on my book tour. We were doing From Shadow Diplomacy, which is important. Right now, it's like a guideline for people to be able to see what Trump actually did. So if you haven't read it, you should definitely pick it up on Amazon, Shadow Diplomacy.
Yep.
It's exactly what we did. He sent me to do back in the day. And now he's doing the same thing all over again, plain sight, with Steve Witkoff. I mean, Steve, that's one of the things I wanted to break with you guys. Steve Witkoff, a lot of people are talking about why is he so close, to Russia, to Russian points were. In 2010, Steve Witkoff signed a recommendation letter to a gentleman by the name of Anatoly Golubchik. Anatoly Golubchik was part of Taiwanchik in the DOJ called it one of the biggest international Russian organized crime rings, to be able to buy an apartment in Manhattan. So, and these people were directly tied to Putin. So Witkoff has relationship going back to Russian organized crime and Putin all the way back to 2010, which we're going to be breaking and looking into, because this is not just because right now he's back in a lot of the attention is here in the United States, and a lot of it's off what's happening in Ukraine, a lot of it's off what's happening in Russia, a lot of it's off what's happening with Iran, but a lot of that's coming to a head, folks. I mean, our tariffs and all of this is just the beginning of what's about to happen. Once, I'm hearing that, we're any day he's going to invade Iran. The things that are happening in Ukraine. I mean, just Sunday, I reported on how it was a massacre, over 40 people dead, 100. I mean, so what I'm saying, it's like with him, keep your eye on the ball, but unfortunately, that ball keeps moving. So it's crazy.
And Lev, speaking of Ukraine, today, once again, after another strike from Vladimir Putin, where innocent women and children died. And Donald Trump, once again, is blaming Ukraine, blaming Zelensky for starting the war. And when talked about this strike and was asked about it, he just said, well, it was a mistake. No, a mistake is when you lock your keys in your car, not when you kill a bunch of innocent people. Clearly, Vladimir Putin does not want peace. But again, today, in front of the president of El Salvador, he blames Ukraine and he blames Zelensky.
Yeah, not only that, but he is refusing now to sell Zelensky missiles. Zelensky, did you hear that one? Zelensky, because he's giving my so Zelensky said, you know what? Screw you, Trump. I don't need your help. I'll pay you for it. Offering $50 billion deal, the biggest deal the U.S. ever had. And now Trump is saying, oh, Zelensky always wants to buy some. I mean, just think, Zelensky always. I mean, this guy is. Look, at the end of the day, I mean, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs. For the past 5 years, I've been trying to explain to the country this is exactly what would happen, and this is happening. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'm not here to say I told you so, but what I am here to say is this: we need to stay united. We need to stay strong. I mean, there are breaks. I mean, you started to see the polls. The polls are starting to show he's starting, people are starting to realize that, he's destroying the economy. People are starting to realize that the things that he's doing is destroying our relationships worldwide.
Yeah.
So the midterms is going to be extremely important.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's extremely important right now for everybody to support each other and stay strong at the moment like this.
Agree. I have to ask you this, Lev. If they're willing to deport somebody like this guy Garcia, who doesn't have a criminal record, and he's in one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world, and they won't bring him back, even though the Supreme Court ruled 9-0, I have to ask you personally, are you worried that maybe Trump could do this to you and your family?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm still on supervised release. I mean, I'm still under the Trump DOJ control, and I worry every day. We all, I mean, I think all of us now as U.S. citizens, hearing what we just heard, are worried because when you see the president of the United States talking, I think that the biggest thing as a U.S. citizen gave you pride and is strength is that's your home. I mean, one thing, it doesn't matter what, but you can't, I mean, that's your home. You're an American, you're a citizen. America's your home. And now to be able to think that, if Trump doesn't like you or somebody in the Trump atmosphere doesn't like you, now they could label you a terrorist or label you a deserter or whatever, a crazy thing they could do and try to deport you to now El Salvador or, a third world country or anywhere else. I mean, it's crazy to see. I mean, and again, remember, we're not even 90 days in. I mean, 90 days in. I mean, this is not even the quarter mark of his. I mean, it's incredible to see. But, and again, it's not to blame him as much as to blame these spineless senators and congressmen in the GOP that are allowing them to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're allowing him to do it, free reign. They gave him whatever he wanted, carte blanche, as far as all of his nominees. I mean, that was ludicrous. I'm not going to go into that because it's a show of its own. And now they're sitting back, and I'm hearing flack. I mean, a lot of them are, understanding that they made a mistake, but it's like now what are you going to do? Like, what are the solutions? I mean, we're stuck, folks, until the midterms, unless some of these senators and congressmen grow a spine quick enough and do something about it, because that's the only thing that's going to stop them. Because go ahead.
Sorry, Lev, to interrupt you. I was going to ask you, like, back in the day when you were spending private time with Rudy Giuliani's of the world and Donald Trump, did you ever think that we would get to this point where this man would literally be a dictator? That's exactly what he's doing, right? He's defying court orders. He's defying the Supreme Court. Back in the day when you were doing what you did and the mistakes that you had owned up to and made in the past, did you ever think it would be this bad?
Absolutely not. Well, first of all, you got to understand, when I was under the cult. I was in the cult. I admired him. I thought he was going to be the greatest president ever. When I got out of the cult, I understood what kind of, I realized, understood, paid my dues, and have been talking about what kind of monster and what kind of, what could happen, to what degree he could go. But never that even I expect him to be able to go to this degree, because growing up as an American citizen, I always believed that we had, some sort of boundaries. We had some sort of, emergency. It says that one person cannot be the king. And what I'm watching play out, and that's the upsetting part to me, is that, how did we get to this point? How did we allow him to even have a chance to take it? What happened to again, not the Democratic people, the voters, because they did their job. They came out. But what happened to our Democratic Party, the leadership? How did they leave if they knew this could happen? How did they not secure somewhere to protect us, protect the public, protect the democracy against them? Because right now, all you see is everybody's running for the hills and talking about, oh well, nobody thought he could. No, we knew he could. There was plenty of us like me that said that knew him, spent time with him, and said this is what he's going to do, and now he's doing it. So. Again, Brian, there's lots of questions that need to be answered, but the number one thing is, the midterms, I guess, the most important thing to be able to have some kind of.
So obviously what I'm about to ask you is not as important as everything else we've just talked about, but since you spent private time with Donald Trump, I don't know if you saw Bill Maher's commentary on Friday. Apparently, he had this dinner with Donald Trump and Dana White and Kid Rock, and he made it sound like, Donald Trump's not a crazy person. He's not a lunatic. We don't have a lunatic, crazy person in the White House. He just plays one on TV, basically because he was laughing and treated Bill Maher, I guess, with respect for 2.5 hours. I'm wondering what you make of that, because it's so absurd, because you spent a lot of private time with Donald Trump as well.
Listen, the crazy part is the bar has been set so low to be, let's just think about, listen, Donald Trump is a showman. Donald Trump is an artist. Donald Trump plays, he could be at a rally, he's one person, behind the scenes at a dinner, he's another person. When he's in front of his family, he's a different person. He's a chameleon. I don't know how. So to hear Bill Maher, a person that I would expect, if you have such a following and you're out there and you're able to tell people this thing, you have a little bit more common sense to understand that, this was all a setup, a play. They knew you were there. Kid Rock brought you there. The conversation, it was all. It's like the WWE. Prior to you getting there, he made fun of you and saying, "I don't even want to go talk to you." And then, of course, when he saw you, he wowed you, because you know what? He's still the president of the United States, and that's what a lot of people forget. A lot of people talk big game and talk tough and say, "Oh, I tell him this." Yeah, absolutely. Now, Monday morning quarterback. But just think about when you're in the White House and you're in front of a president of the United States and all of that around you, that history, that glory. It's a powerful tool that this man has to be able to. And then when he gets a Bill Maher in there, he starts showing him all the historical stuff, talk about, and again, I always said Donald Trump is one of the biggest cults in the world, and he's a cult master. And sometimes he could hypnotize you. He hypnotized me. I remember that dinner when we sat there in 2015 when he was running for office. He looked into the water and said, "I don't need this. I'm doing this for the people. I'm doing this big." And I looked at him and I was like, "Holy shit! This man is here to save our country. He's not a politician." And I jumped full head first, and I was in, and until I woke up in prison one day. So a lot of these people are going to eventually do that. But unfortunately, right now, it's hard for me to say, because I can't believe to say that we're back to where history repeats itself, and now he's in office again.
But here's the difference, and I think we'll agree on this between you and there's a lot of differences between a guy like you and Bill Maher. But I believe you, Lev, when you say that, listen, I don't, maybe the word radicalized isn't the best word, but you were in the cult right at that time, and you believe the stuff that Donald Trump said. I believe you when you say that. I don't believe Bill Maher's in the cult. I believe, and I'm not saying you said that, but I think the reason why Bill Maher is doing this, he knows who Donald Trump is just as well as you do. He's a smart guy, just like you are. But Bill Maher is doing it only for ratings and money.
Ratings, money, absolutely. And so many of watching the media, the way the media is turning, and watching some of the social media. Watching people sell their souls for money right now, because everybody understands Donald Trump is a transactional president. And when we say transactional, it's a different level of transaction.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's selling gold cards for $5 million a piece to anybody that wants to come into the United States. So, right now you have everybody in the world that wants to make a transaction, and most of these people, you don't have the best intentions. These are not your doctors, your lawyers, your scientists. These are business people. These are people that are, some are, good business people, but majority, when you say business, it's like, there's a atmosphere that comes where you'll go to different lengths, you'll do different things, you'll look the other way, you'll do things. And that's the world we're in right now, where you could negotiate, do it. If you have something for him, he'll negotiate with you. Otherwise,
Yeah. Lev, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book. I wanted to ask you one more question, though. What would you say to the people in this country, some of whom have lost their jobs, they've lost money in the stock market, they've lost their 401ks, their IRAs are down 30, 40, 50%, but yet some of these people who voted for Donald Trump still are saying, you know what? Things are going to turn around because Donald Trump cares about me. I'm wondering, this man better than most people, because you spent a lot of time around him. What would you say to those people who still are backing Donald Trump when our economy is in turmoil and we see what's going on all over the world?
wake up, wake up and smell the coffee. I mean, so you got several different types of people. Some people need to wake up. Some people are not going to wake up. They're just in a cult. And then there's another group of people just try to make money off of it and try to figure out how they could use either social media or use the platforms to be able to jump on this bandwagon. Bitcoin. There's so many different, ways that Donald Trump is giving all these people a ways to. So, but I would say wake up and take a look. If you can't notice now what he's doing with all of this that happening, we're in a constitutional crisis. We say it, but just you, if somebody would have said this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, people would never believe it's possible that the United States is an actual constitutional crisis, where the president of the United States just told the Supreme Court to go F itself and not do it. And now this is just the beginning, because we have a lot more coming down the road where, there's courts and that are trying to interfere with what Trump is doing, besides just immigration. Because immigration, yes, it's a tough one, but there's also, don't forget what Doge is doing. Getting rid of all of there's so many things happening. But look, Brian, I want to say, first of all, thanks to people like you, independent journalists that are out there that are, because, the media out there is not doing its job. It's guys like you that are actually go out there, like my son, Aaron Parnes, like the Midas Group, like all of these groups out there that are out there trying to bring the news actually that's out there. Me, I'm not a journalist, but I break the news. I bring it, I'm saying to you.
Listen, Lev, I was able to get to know you a little bit, and I can say this without the shadow of a doubt, that you're a decent, good man.
Thank you, Brian.
You are a good father. You are a good husband. You are a family man. You are a decent man. And I am worried for you. And I am worried for people like you. And I really, truly mean that. I have to ask you this real quickly here. You know how Donald Trump works behind the scenes. Do you believe that this was market manipulation, and do you believe insider
100%,
trading?
100%. And that's one of the things I'll end off with this, that, definitely who if you didn't get a chance to pick up the book, Shadow Diplomacy, it's on Amazon. You could find it on Amazon. You definitely want to get it. And if you get it, you could go to my website. I'll get signed for you. But the knowledge that you'll pick up to get into Donald Trump's mind. I wrote it when I was in prison, because I didn't think I was going to be able to testify eventually in Congress, which I did. And Bill Maher was trying to shut me up. So you definitely want to get it. But the new project, what I'm doing right now, which I think is even more important, where I would like for your listeners to go to my Substack and start subscribing. It's free for those of you that can't afford it. For those of you that could afford it, it's measly $8, but you could definitely support the work that I'm doing, and you're going to get a lot of inside information. What I've been doing is basically, before the news breaks every day, I'm out there getting the information in Donald Trump's mind about what's going on from sources that I have on the inside from Trump world. Also, don't forget, I negotiated with Zelensky and his chief of staff Yermak in 2019. So I'm extremely close into the Ukrainian government sources. Also, like it or not, I have a lot of big Russian oligarch friends from my past that now I also, because of opening, so we have a lot of Russian sources. So because of that, I'm able to bring some insight on what's going on, not only with Donald Trump, with everybody on my Substack. So I ask everybody to kindly go subscribe there to Substack. Lev remembers, Lev Parnes. And I think you won't be sorry, and you'll get some information that you're not going to get on the media or nowhere else.
And it's a great book. It's a great read, Lev. Your book is phenomenal. Please order it. And your Substack is great. Lev, keep up the great work, my friend. It's good to see you. Please stay safe, and we'll talk soon, my friend. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Keep up the great work, and you're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lev. Appreciate that. That's Lev Parnes, everybody. He's a good man. He's a good, decent man. He got involved in the cult. He made mistakes. He dearly paid the price for it. And I'm worried for him. And I'm worried for others that, went against Donald Trump. And what's Donald Trump going to do next, right? What's he going to do next? Lev is a decent, good man. Great book, by the way. I got a chance to spend some time with Lev when he was in Las Vegas, and I really enjoyed that time. Please check out his Substack, too. It's some great information. Some interesting stuff in that interview, too, that we can definitely dissect when we come back. So I know we have a lot of people waiting patiently on hold. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to take a quick break, our first break of the show, and then when we come back, it's dedicated to you. We're going to take your phone calls. I'm going to be talking about Bill Maher, my frustration with him. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's press conference today with the president of El Salvador, which was a you-know-what show, and I'll go through that. Please check out my friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, home of, that's right, the tariff 10% payback. Yes, they're giving you that tariff money back. If you hit a taxable jackpot of $1,199 or more, you're going to get at least 10% free slot play back on your player's card. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, also home of the $20 ribeye steak. I'm telling you, folks, it's great. We're going to go to the YouTube Super Chat when we come back. We're going to take your phone calls when we come back. We're going to read some emails. My question to you when we come back is two of them. Number one, what did you think about the press conference this morning with the president of El Salvador when this guy Garcia, the Supreme Court ruled, should be sent back to the United States of America, and Donald Trump saying, nope, nothing to see here, we're not going to do it. Donald Trump also blaming Zelensky again for the war in the Ukraine. And your thoughts on Bill Maher and that interview we just had with Lev Parnes. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Rubio Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercials, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Programming note. Midas Touch's very own Ron Filipkowski is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. He's great. He's one of my favorite guests. I also think Lev Parnes is great. I mean, his documentary was phenomenal, an emotional moment with Hunter Biden, and now they're friends. Lev's a good dude, man. You know, we all make mistakes in life, some maybe more than others, but Lev is a really good dude. I want to go to the YouTube Super Chat. Norman, thank you for your $20 donation. We appreciate your support of the show. Thank you so much. Lori says, do you think something happened to him? That's why they did not bring him back. You know, it's a really good point that you just brought up, and I really didn't think about that, Lori, but it could be an Otto Warmbier type situation. I'm not going to say it's not possible. That is a very good point you just mentioned, and I'm going to have to think about that. I think that's a possibility. That makes sense to me. Sir Seuss, I think Bill Maher flipped on Trump because Trump promised him 13 seconds of a good time. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's funny. 13 seconds. That's $10,000 a second. I don't know if it was worth it for Stormy Daniels. Dr. Seuss, I appreciate your support of the show, all of you. You could also go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. If you want to make a donation, you could also put a note in there and we'll read it on the air. Again, that's pushingthelimits.live. All right, I promised everybody that we would go back to the calls. So just real quickly here to just kind of review what took place this morning. In my opinion, it's one of the most vile days in the Donald Trump administration thus far. You have this guy who was deported and put in this El Salvador prison, this guy Garcia, who has no criminal record, and the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. He needs to be sent back to the United States of America, that it was wrong, it was a mistake. You have Marco Rubio, who's flat out lying to the American people, saying that he was illegal. Supreme Court didn't say that. Stephen Miller saying that the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling was somehow in Donald Trump's favor. That's very bizarre. And then Caitlin Collins is asking Donald Trump, well, wait, didn't you say you'd respect the Supreme Court's ruling? And then he just attacks her. And then Donald Trump is blaming Russia and Ukraine, in the war, blaming Ukraine, I should say, for the war. It's just despicable. Okay, let's get back to the calls at 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Hey, good.
The first thing I'd like to mention, the last thing I'm going to mention is about the Supreme Court ruling. And I would first like to mention that Bill Maher, he's no different than Zuckerberg and all these other CEOs who went down and kissed Trump because they want to expand their careers or they want to make more money or something to that effect.
Yeah.
As far as your friend, that guy Dave Polak, he's no different neither, only he doesn't have as big a viewership as everybody else, but he's a white nationalist and he's a racist. Everyone in the chat saw it. Now, about the ruling. The ruling, I believe, Trump passed that line that we all were wondering, when will he pass that line? And like you mentioned earlier, what will stop him now? When he tested it, and they, in my opinion, succeeded, because there's nothing that the Supreme Court's going to be able to do after this. After the president of El Salvador says, we can't bring him back, but he can, because he's in charge of that prison and he has the right to. But the problem is now, what happens if he grabs an American citizen who's been here 20 years or 30 years and just doesn't like that person because what they posted on Facebook snatches him up.
That's my concern. That's my concern, and that's what I just said, to Lev Parnes. A guy like Lev could be next. And Mark, that's what makes this guy so dangerous, right? He doesn't respect the rule of law. He never has his entire life. And it's interesting because someone on the YouTube Super Chat had said earlier, maybe this guy Garcia, maybe something happened to him. Maybe that's why they don't want to send him back. Could be an Otto Warmbier type situation. Do you remember when Donald Trump was praising Kim Jong-un when Otto Warmbier came back a vegetable and his family had, for lack of a better term, pulled the plug? It was such a sad story with Otto Warmbier. It's a horrible story. Do you remember that? It could be this kind of situation. And Donald Trump does not want to be blamed for it. His administration, it could be. If not, then why don't they bring him back? All he has to do is say the word. And then the president of El Salvador says, oh, we don't want to release criminals. He's not a criminal. The Supreme Court just ruled that. You frickin' idiots. You criminals yourselves. So, thank you, Mark. 702-221-7283. Let's go to John. John is next up on PTL. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Hey,
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I let's start El Salvador crap. If he really wanted to make a good statement, he could have actually do it right there on TV. Two presidents sitting right there. He could have just had it done.
So, John,
take care of the business right then and there.
John, I agree with you. Why isn't he doing that? What do you think the reason is?
He just don't care.
Okay, so I think that
he just
could
really
be.
Don't care.
That could be. You could be right on that. It could be he doesn't care, or could it be that something criminal happened and something happened to this man? Because I'm beginning to think that could be a possibility here.
You could see it from a lot of different ways. That could be a main issue too, or it could be that if he even wanted to go back on his word, he would look small, and he don't want to look small by going back on his word and actually making it right.
Right.
It could be so much a little thing in between. But not to throw you off your topics though. Didn't you notice that nobody in White House other than J.D. Vance with his bullshit comment, whatever, just to say something, didn't say anything about the governor in Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
He
so
didn't even
I'm glad.
have the
I'm glad.
humanity to say nothing.
I'm
or
glad
do
you're.
nothing.
I'm glad you're bringing that up again because we are going to keep talking about that. Okay, the governor and his family's lives were in jeopardy. Their home was lit on fire by a domestic MAGA terrorist who openly admitted to law enforcement that he wanted to kill Josh Shapiro. But if you key a Tesla car, Pam Bondi is the first one
Come
to
out
go
on TV and say anything.
Pam Bondi is the first one to go in front of the media and talk about these people as domestic terrorists who blow up Tesla cars or who key Tesla cars. They're going to go after you. But notice Pam Bondi and nobody in Donald Trump's administration has talked about this. This was a governor of the great state of Pennsylvania whose life and the life of his family were threatened and his place was blowtorched. And not one MAGA Republican seems to want to talk about it because they are despicable cowards, all of them. They're despicable people. They're horrible people, and I hope they all go to hell. And I mean that sincerely.
Me too. I'm with you 100%. That's to show you that's the way they want the place to be. It's like they don't want nothing to change. If it was, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you're right, my friend.
Like so inhumane. It's
real
inhumane to do something like that.
It's unbelievably inhumane, and I completely agree with you. Listen, we saw the same thing similar remember when Paul Pelosi was attacked with a hammer and you had idiots like Matt Gaetz and Ted Cruz that were making jokes about it. Oh, it was a gay relationship. Let him in. And then when we all saw the police report and we saw that that wasn't true, did they retract? Did they say, geez, we hope he makes a full recovery? No, because they're all pieces of garbage and they're all scumbags. These MAGA Republicans, I put them all in the same category. They're all a bunch of deplorable scumbags and horrible human beings. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Julie. Julie is next up on PTL. What's up, Julie?
I am infuriated, Brian, because of what's going on. I even texted my Aunt Linda, don't watch, what's his name? Fred Mayer?
Bill Maher.
Brian?
Bill Maher, yep.
Bill Maher.
Yep.
Yeah, I told her don't watch him anymore, and I sent her a link to your video.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I'm just flabbergasted and mad.
We can't normalize this, though, right, Julie? We can't normalize this. Donald Trump, in front of the world today, with the president of El Salvador, just basically said that he is defying the Supreme Court, which made a ruling that this guy needs to be sent back to the United States of America. So he's telling the world that he will defy the Supreme Court. And again, these constitutionalist MAGA Republicans are all phonies because he's breaking our Constitution right now as we speak. And it just seems like it's not as big a story as it should be today. This is the president of the United States. They deported someone who not only should not have been deported because there's no evidence that he's an illegal, but they sent him to one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world. I want to know what happened to this guy. Because if something happened to him physically, it's on the Trump administration. Imagine what his family's going through right now. It's unbelievable. It's unprecedented territory that we are in right now.
Brian, I'm worried about these freaking people. Like, as somebody who's lived with somebody like a Trump is, they don't care. They will do whatever they want as long as they get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they hurt somebody. It doesn't matter if it's illegal. What do you want?
You're absolutely
right. And he
right.
doesn't care. And it's just going to keep getting worse.
You are absolutely right, and I appreciate your call. I want to kind of reset the scene, if I may, if you're just joining us. And, I'm not going to play you a cut from Donald Trump, and I'm not going to play you a cut from Stephen Miller. I want to play cut 2 from Donald Trump's press conference today, if we can, Numchuck. I appreciate it. And in cut 2, I want you to hear what Marco Rubio said today in that press conference, because Marco Rubio is not a dumb guy. He has a law degree. And I want you to listen to how spineless Marco Rubio is, because this is the point where Marco Rubio is saying that there's confusion and this guy's an illegal. This is Marco Rubio lying to the American people, coddling to Donald Trump. I don't know how he looks himself in the mirror. Have a listen to this.
Even outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
This guy has a law degree. He just lied to the American people. There is no confusion here. The United States Supreme Court has made a ruling. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen, very simple in black and white here. Donald Trump is required to request the return of this individual to the U.S. Donald Trump has not done so. This is breaking the law. Defies our Constitution. It defines the Supreme Court. And Marco Rubio is sitting there like the numbskull that he is, lying to the American people. Lying! What a piece of human trash everyone is in Donald Trump's administration, that they allow this man to do this. And Marco Rubio, the coward that he is. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. That's 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Terry. Terry is next up on PTL. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Brian. If I seem a little incoherent today, there's just been so much to have to process in the last week. I'm just losing words. But First of all, I unfollowed Bill Maher about 4 years ago. No way was I listening to him anymore. In terms of Kilmar Garcia, Senator Van Hollen, who is our state senator, is going to travel to El Salvador this week to check and find out what's going on with Mr. Garcia and what's happened. Because I guess he was hoping today he would get something positive from, I don't know why, from the president. And he said if they don't make a decision within 3 days, he's going to El Salvador himself. So that's encouraging. We'll see what happens.
And what was his name again?
Oh, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Okay, I would love to get that senator on the show, because good for him. He's showing a lot of guts doing that. And I know, because I'm actually concerned for him. He's a really good guy. He really is. And he said that he was going down there himself. So we'll see what happens. And I guess for me right now, Brian, my only solace is that Bernie Sanders and AOC are still out there, keeping his movement going with the anti-oligarchy stuff, and also your show. So thank you for all you do. Oh, well, I appreciate you, my dear. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And we'll try to get that senator on the show. Good for him. I think something happened to this guy, and I know it's speculation, but I think, why are they so adamant? Why is the president of El Salvador, and why is Donald Trump so adamant to not bring this guy back? I think they got some intel, and I think something happened to this guy. I think he had some sort of medical episode, and I think something happened. Hopefully they'll get down to the bottom of it. I want to thank, let's get the name here, Catherine, for going on my website, pushingthelimits.live. Thank you for your donation. I want to thank her for buying a woman's short sleeve t-shirt. I also want to thank Julie for going on the website and making a donation. Thank you, Julie. We appreciate your support, and we're still in the YouTube Super Chat, by the way, as well, if you want your questions and or comments to be heard. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. Hello, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Thanks
What's on
for
your
taking
mind?
my call.
Yep.
Great show. Great show.
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of curious. First thing, I want to make a point for a lot of people out there who are supposedly paying attention to all these idiots that work under Trump. I hope you people are taking names of everybody that's working under his cabinet, and the people that are, you want to take names of everybody in the Republican Party. So that way, once you get all these people's names and they start running for president, that you don't vote for these clowns. None of them. At all. Period. At all. I don't care who it is. You should be voting for a Democrat anyway. That's for one thing.
I agree.
Number two, here's a really good question, and I want to see if you can get some expert on this one.
Okay.
If the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, SCOTUS, rules on the favor of the inmate, the person that they shipped over to El Salvador, and they want him to come back. Can the United States Supreme Court send over some, like, I know that the president is in charge of the military, but he works under the United States Supreme Court. Can the United States Supreme Court, if he basically doesn't go and follows the United States Supreme Court's decision, can the United States Supreme Court send the military to bring that person back? I'm just curious if that could be happening.
So it's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to it. I know that it's going to be very difficult to do something like that. It appears to me that you're going to have cooperation between the president of El Salvador. That's number one. And we know that he is a mini cultist, I guess a mini dictator, for lack of a better term, and they are in cahoots. I personally think that something has happened to this prisoner. I don't know what. It is speculation. Yeah. I don't have any evidence, but the speculation is because of the way Donald Trump and the president of El Salvador have reacted to the Supreme Court's decision. It was just the other day on Air Force One where Donald Trump was saying that he would respect the Supreme Court's decision. Why all of a sudden now is he so adamant that that's not going to happen? Why is the president of El Salvador lying? Why is Marco Rubio lying? Why is Donald Trump lying? It would have been very simple. It's one individual, right? Forget about all the others. One individual, they could have said, okay, the Supreme Court ruled the way it did, let's bring him back. And that's it. Nothing to see here, even though it's terrible. I think something happened to this guy, and I think this story needs to stay alive. I think we need to continue to talk about it, and we need to find out where this guy is.
No, I agree. I just wondering, because I'm just kind of curious that if once you go, if you turn your face against the United States Supreme Court, he works under the United States Supreme Court.
Right.
I'm just wondering that they can go ahead and go after and bring that person back or whatever, or basically try to say, no, you can't do that.
Right.
I wonder if they can send them some kind of like a FBI or a military person or go against him.
I'm know.
Just curious.
Yeah, I'm curious as well, and it's a good question you're asking. I don't know the answer to that. What I know is we have a lunatic in the White House, and if it takes that to bring this guy back, then I think we need to do it. But unfortunately, Donald Trump is the president of the United States, so that's going to be very difficult to do, my friend. Hey, Dave, I appreciate your call. Great call, my friend. I think that's a great question. I don't know. If somebody has some information they want to share with us, I don't know. The problem is Donald Trump's the president. So how could somebody go in there and take him out of there when it's against only the president of El Salvador, but our own president? So I just don't know how that could work. I appreciate the phone call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. All right, who do we have next here? Let's go to Margie. Margie is next up on PTL. Hi, Margie.
Hi, Brian. I love your show. I listen every afternoon. It's great.
Thank you.
Afternoon. I'm on East Coast, New Jersey.
Thank you for calling in, Margie. Thank you.
Yes, I have been very upset since I've seen the 60 Minutes documentary on this. I've got to tell you, this prison is horrible. After the documentary, I took it upon myself to look everything up there is to know about this prison. I will tell you, this prison is horrible. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't think any prisoner should be in this prison. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. These people are treated inhumanely. Matter of fact, there's a lot of humane groups that are against this prison. They're trying to get it shut down.
And listen, Margie, I just want to interject here. So people can debate whether the conditions are too harsh. That's one conversation that I think is a very fair one to have. But it's a whole nother conversation when there are people in there that are nonviolent criminals.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm getting. And the idea that they have these people in there breaks my heart. I mean, I have not slept since I watched that documentary. And then I read up on it, and I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, these inmates are beat by the guards.
Yeah.
And I think that's why something happened to him, because once they asked for him back, now you have to worry about him reporting what was going on in that prison.
Right.
They don't want nobody to know what's going on in that prison. And they said the only way you leave that prison is in a body bag.
Right.
So, and then they're buried on the premises of the prison.
What if
you don't even know they're there.
What if we find out, and I think this is very plausible, and I hope I'm wrong, what if we found out that this guy was killed or in a, vegetative state for, what if we find that out? I think there's a strong possibility. We might never know. This guy might have just disappeared.
And the other thing I want to say is I'm also worried about Andre Hernandez Ramiro. He is a gay guy. He was a
not a gang member. Right.
Yes, a hairstylist and everything. He committed no crimes. He was getting ready to be, an American citizen.
Yep.
And then he's like gone. Like what is? I don't. This country is hell right now. It's
60. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're talking about the 60 Minutes piece, which I thought was great journalism, by the way, didn't they say that 70% of these people that were sent to this prison are nonviolent criminals? Do I have that right?
No, it's 75%.
75%. How sickening is that?
Yeah, 75%. 200, and I believe it was 37 inmates are there that are nonviolent criminals. They have no records, no violent records at all. They couldn't find nothing on them.
This is what happens when you have a lunatic in the White House who is racist, who is a bigot, who has no respect for the law, who doesn't want to give brown people due process. This is what happens. You send people away that do not deserve to be there.
Why couldn't they just send them to our prisons? We have a gazillion. I don't understand.
Because he doesn't want brown people in this country. Even if they're in prison, he doesn't want them here. That's what a sick person is.
Yeah, because like you always say, it's not make America great again, it's make America white again. We're not doing that.
Yeah, or orange, or make America white supremacist again. I agree with you, my dear. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. I feel the same concerns that you feel. And we have a president of the United States who is defying our Supreme Court, defying the Constitution, not giving people due process. I want to know where this guy Garcia is, because if something happened to him when he's in there, it's bad enough that he's in there. But if something happened to him, it is on the Trump administration, and they are the ones that committed murder, period. It's funny, though, isn't it? All these people that are pro-life. Isn't it interesting? All these people that are pro-life, they have no problem with sending people without due process to these prisons in El Salvador. Don't you find that interesting? We call ourselves pro-life, but, no due process, send them to El Salvador. We're totally okay with that. Frickin' idiots. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jade. Jade is next up on PTL. What's up, Jade?
Oh, hi, Brian.
Hey.
Oh, boy. There's just so much that's going on. It's just complete insanity. I don't know if you've heard recently, but I think yesterday there was a fire that happened in Harrisburg with Josh Shapiro.
Yep, we were talking about that earlier.
Just hearing about that, it's just horrifying that someone would do something like this to Josh Shapiro, and he has nothing to do with anything that's going on with the Trump administration. And just hearing about that, hearing about what's going on with El Salvador, and just...
I want to comment, if I may, Jade, again, because I think it's very important to talk about this situation with Josh Shapiro, if I may. So, if you notice, again, I'm going to keep making this point because I think it's important. If you torch a Tesla, which, by the way, I don't condone, or if you key a Tesla vehicle, Pam Bondi has no problem in calling you a domestic terrorist, and you would think that they want to give you the electric chair if you do something to a Tesla vehicle. And they're still talking about that, by the way. We're talking about the governor, but we're talking about the governor of Pennsylvania, him and his family, who have been tortured over the weekend into having to go to another place because of the threats they received, and their home was torched. The guy who was arrested, who they found, who committed this heinous crime, has openly admitted to law enforcement that he wanted to kill Josh Shapiro. But yet,
that is a terrorist attack.
But yet, I agree. But yet, Donald Trump hasn't even uttered a word about it. Nobody in his administration has talked about it. Pam Bondi hasn't talked about it. And MAGA Republicans all over the country don't seem to want to talk about this story. But if you key a Tesla, you're a domestic terrorist. If you beat a police officer on January 6th, they call you a patriot or a hero. But if you torch someone's home, in this case, the governor of Pennsylvania, he and his family, they don't even want to talk about it. That's how sick these people are. That's how sick these people are. Let me be very clear. You're not a domestic terrorist if you key a Tesla. I don't condone it. You're not a domestic terrorist. You are a domestic terrorist if you beat police officers on January 6th. You are a domestic terrorist if you want to kill a politician. Okay, you are. And it shouldn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the MAGA Republican Party today. This is who they are. They will attack drag queens and they want to ban books. But if you try to kill a Democrat who happens to be the governor of Pennsylvania, there's nothing to see here.
It's like, do people not remember the Oklahoma City bombing or 9/11 or January 6th? Those were terrorist attacks. Do people not remember those?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, my dear, and I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm going to continue to bring that up until Donald Trump does, which I'm not sure he will. I appreciate your phone call. Thank you so much. The governor of Pennsylvania, who is a rising star in the Democrat Party, his life was at risk, his family's life were at risk by a domestic terrorist who blowtorched his home there. Donald Trump didn't even mention it, but if you key a Tesla, you're a domestic terrorist, and they want to, throw you to the wolves. This is the MAGA Republican Party today. They don't care about you, especially if you're a liberal or a Democrat. They probably don't care about you if you're a Republican either, but only if you defend Donald Trump or not, right? 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. So I think we have, who do we have next here? We have Tony next. Tony's next up on PTL. Hey, Tony, what's going on, man?
Hi, Brian. I love your show.
Thank you.
I love your show.
Thank you.
I got a different perspective on this scumbag Bill Maher.
Okay.
First of all, I'm a 3-tour combat disabled Vietnam veteran.
Thank you for your service.
And the reason I only said that for one reason. I'm not looking for any notoriety because of that. But first of all, on Real Time, Maher had, I call him Skid Mark Ritchie. His real name's, you guys call him Kid Rock. His real name's Ritchie.
Mm-hmm.
I call him Skid Mark Ritchie. And the reason I call him Skid Mark is because his good buddy is Ted Nugent, who urinated and defecated his jockeys for a week and then went to his draft board physical to get out of serving the country.
Yep.
That's who the type of friends that Skid Mark Ritchie has.
But I'm glad you brought that up because I bring up the fact you are who you hang out with. Bill Maher's friend is Kid Rock.
There you go. There you go.
You are who you hang out with. And they had a dinner. Kid Rock, Dana White, who is a woman abuser, he smacked his wife in public, and Donald Trump. And then Bill Maher has the gall and the nerve to tell his listeners that we don't have a crazy person in the White House. He just plays one on TV. Why, Bill? Oh, because he was nice to me for 2.5 hours and he laughed at a few of my jokes. What a jerk. Are people really that stupid that they believe that?
Well, hell, it's funny that Maher acts like he's Albert Einstein for finding this out about, old Dump is nice at the White House, but he's not the same person outside the White House. You know who else is like that was Ted Bundy. He was a nice guy too, but outside he was a different guy. But it's interesting. He had Skid Mark Ritchie on his Real Time show one day, and after they were done talking, Maher jumps up and goes to him and says, "See you back at the house, Bobby."
Mm-hmm.
And here's Skid Mark. You'll see him frequently with a Old Glory wrapped around his shoulders like he just got off Omaha Beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you.
You can go on Google, and you can Google the picture of Skid Mark and Ted Nugent and President Dump in the Oval Office.
Isn't Ted Nugent? Listen, I never liked Ted's music, but isn't he just a despicable person? I mean, this is a guy he's a bigot, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's just an awful human being. But do you find it interesting, sir, that when people like LeBron James speak out, someone like Laura Ingraham will say, "Shut up and dribble," right? And then when somebody like Ted Nugent speaks out, she'll invite him on the show and gawk all over him. I wonder if maybe Laura Ingraham might be a racist. Geez, I wonder, shut up and dribble if you're LeBron James and he has a political opinion. But if you're Ted Nugent and you do just despicable, horrible things and say terrible things, she welcomes him with open arms. Let me tell you something. Laura Ingraham is an evil, racist witch. That's what she is.
I mean, can you find out anything more despicable than urinating and defecating your jockeys for a week just to get out of serving the country?
No.
And his good buddy, Skid Mark Ritchie, wears the flag around his shoulders like he's a patriot. That's nothing but stolen valor, Brian.
He's the opposite of a patriot.
Stolen valor.
Yeah, he's the opposite of a patriot, my friend. Kid Rock is a homophobe, an Islamophobe. And this is Bill Maher's friend. So I think we know all what we need to know about Bill Maher. I will never support that guy, never say anything nice about him ever again. Bill Maher's a scumbag. Thank you for the phone call. Skid Mark Ritchie. I might have to use that from time to time. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Sean. Sean is next up on PTL. Hey, Sean, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Big fan. I wanted to hit on the thing in El Salvador. You say he might be dead, but even if he's not dead, like it's going to be bad publicity. It's bringing him back either way. So
Yeah.
I hate to think that they're going to keep him there at least 2 years. You know, who knows what's going to happen in 2026? But
Yeah.
it's majorly concerning. I also wanted to let you know I attended the Bernie rally in L.A. So if you have any questions about that,
How many people were there? I heard it was a great turnout. How many people were there?
Well, they say 35,000, but what I can tell you for certain is that the entire block that was cordoned off was entirely packed. Security at one point during AOC's speech were turning people away. Some people did sneak by, paying the security like $10-20. Eventually, they were letting more people in because as Bernie was going on for about 20 minutes, and some people had filtered out, but more people filtered back in. So
right.
Security lines let people start going back in. But, I mean, they overflowed the parks all surrounding it and the streets all surrounding the rally. So, I mean, it was pretty incredible. And I know they always want to say, people turning out for a free concert. But, I mean, as much as I love Neil Young and Joan Baez, that would be an older crowd, but there were so many young people, and they all stayed basically through the end of AOC's and basically through most of Bernie's speech.
I love AOC. That's really nice to see. I'm driving to work today, and sometimes I torture myself and listen to these right-wing idiots. They're so disgusting. It's hard for me to even listen to them for 5 minutes on the air. And I'm listening to it's a show with like 2 or 3 people. And they're right-wing idiots, and they never criticize Republicans for anything, unless you're Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, right? So I'm listening to them, and they play I'm being serious. This is what they did on the show today. They played a compilation of Bernie Sanders calling Donald Trump an oligarchy, like all the times, which, by the way, it is. And they were laughing and giggling.
Right for 30 years.
Yeah, and they were laughing and giggling,
years.
and that was like their sense of humor. They didn't talk about this prisoner who they won't send back to the United States. They won't talk about the things that Donald Trump is doing that are hurting Americans, let alone what's going on in El Salvador. They won't talk about the fact that this morning he said that Ukraine started the war again. But yet, somehow, in their mind, they think to entertain their group of idiot listeners that they would put together some compilation that was so funny of Bernie Sanders calling it an oligarchy. And I think to myself, how do these people even have jobs? The only thing I can think of is that the people that run these stations or the people that hire them are also right-wing imbeciles. That's the only way it could work with right-wing radio these days, whether it's Mark Levin, whether it's Sean Hannity, whether you're watching Laura Ingraham, whether you're listening to some of these idiots like Michael Savage. Who are their bosses? Like, how do you allow these people to go on the air? There's an imbecile in Las Vegas. Yes, he's an imbecile, and his name is Wayne Allen Root. He's an imbecile. I call him Wayne Allen Kook, who once said that the October 1 shooting in Vegas was done by Muslims. Okay, this is a guy that said on the air that the Obamas have had gay relationships. This is a guy that said on the air that he had a pill that could possibly cure COVID, and then he got a letter from the Attorney General. And somehow program directors and general managers, not just in this town, but across the country, allow these people to be on the air because all they care about is money. And they can all go to hell. Put somebody on the air that puts out medical misinformation. Put somebody on the air that says things about people that are absolutely and positively not true. They shouldn't be allowed to be on the air. Yet Donald Trump wants to go after people that are factual. Donald Trump wants to go after people like David Pakman. Donald Trump wants to go after people like Caitlin Collins today, when Caitlin Collins asked what I think was a very, very, very good question. And she asked the president, well, Mr. President, you said the other day that you would respect the Supreme Court's decision, whatever they do. And Donald Trump's response, that's why nobody's listening to your network. Like, that has anything to do with the question, which was, by the way, a very good question. I've just had it with these people, and I've had it with people that are on the air that just spew lies and racism.
Oh, it's awful. I mean, the era of Walter Cronkite is dead, unfortunately, and the media environment has become so siloed that, you can get away with saying basically anything to your captured audience.
Yep.
And I'm saying this as someone who was a Republican until 2015.
What was the ending point for you?
Oh, it was just the mountain of hypocrisy that just stacked up over time. So I used to believe in what, with essentially compassionate conservatism, but unfortunately that seems to have died off.
Right.
And it's really out of my Christian faith. This batch of Republicans has been so captured by hatred of the immigrants and hatred of the less fortunate
Yeah.
And of course captured by their billionaire funders, donors. So I mean, it's just a really tough time to be a Christian and live your faith, one way or the other, because you feel like you're feeding the Republicans who have been awful and very anti-Christian in so many ways, but on the other hand, Democrats aren't perfect in their own regard. But I will say, Bernie was what pulled me back. I mean, I live in California, so even as a Republican in California, it didn't really much matter what my opinion was. For a while.
Your opinion does matter, and quite frankly, sir, I wish there were more people like you that saw the light. Unfortunately, there's not, and I'm glad you went to that Bernie Sanders rally. Thank you for that, and I certainly appreciate you, and I'm glad you called into the show. Thank you so much, sir. We'll go back to the YouTube super chat real quickly here. And thank you, Kim, for your donation. Kim says El Salvador dictator at the White House today, not fighting a war, didn't wear a suit, and no one told him he was being disrespectful for not wearing one. Kim, that is a really good point, and I also noticed that today. You didn't see Marjorie Taylor Greene's despicable boyfriend ask him the question, sir, how come you're not wearing a suit? Geez, I wonder why that is. Maybe because he's a mini dictator himself. They care about Zelensky not wearing a suit, but this scumbag, and yes, I'm going to say the president of El Salvador is a scumbag. Okay, he's a mini dictator, just like Donald Trump. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Charles. Charles is next up on PTL. Hey, Charles, what's going on?
Well, apparently we're letting people who run S-hole countries in the White House and get prime news coverage, based on what I saw today. El Salvador is a tiny little country. It's got serious problems, and yet it made the national news spotlight, and they used the platform. Yep. I think based on your previous caller, we just have to accept the fact that we had 77 million knuckleheads vote for this guy and put a convicted, adjudicated rapist in the White House. And now his underlings and the people behind Project 2025, they're convinced that they are just going to push the envelope on whatever they want to do and just tie things up in court. Because I don't know if you saw the hot mic cut.
I did.
Where Trump was caught saying that he wants to deport Americans.
I did. Yep. He wanted, I did hear that. He wants more of those jails made, and he wants to send Americans out there. I mean, if that doesn't scare the bejesus out of us, I don't know what will, right?
Yeah, we need to request one with a golden toilet so he can have a place to stay.
I wish.
Once he's brought to justice. And
I wish.
Hopefully when the Republicans get swept out in the midterms, we'll start to see a little bit of reconciliation.
Here's what I want. I want Donald Trump, as you mentioned, with a golden toilet in the El Salvador prison. He has to listen to Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American, 24/7. He gets a Trump Bible. That's it. That's what I want. That's what, and maybe put an Ocasio-Cortez poster in there for him. That's my dream. That's what I want in there. And I hope, and then, he can pleasure himself to that if he would like. He can read his Trump Bible for the first time, because we know Donald Trump has never read the Bible in his life, which is fine. I've never read the Bible either. I don't choose to, but you see, I don't lie about it like he does. He said it was his favorite book. So that's what I pray. I'm going to pray to MAGA God right now. MAGA God, I'm talking to you right now, MAGA God. I pray. I'm praying to Jesus and I'm praying to God. Please deport Donald Trump to the El Salvador prison. You can give him a gold toilet, give him a Trump Bible, and he has to listen to Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American 24/7. I'm praying to God, and I hope the evangelical Christians will also do the same. I'm speaking to all of you religious zealots out there. I'm praying. I rarely pray in my life. I'm praying that Donald Trump gets deported to this El Salvador prison. I'm praying. I hope God is listening to me.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it was refreshing to hear your previous caller, who appeared to be a real Christian and not one of these fake Christians who flips you off in the parking lot of the church because you took their parking spot.
Right.
And then goes and spews all this misogynistic and racist rhetoric online. So appreciate it, though, Brian. Have a great one.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you as well. Thank you, sir. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Joey. Joey's next on PTL. Hey, Joey, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Long-time listener.
Thank you.
Called it a couple times a little while ago. I got a little pushback for you today.
That's okay.
So
go right ahead.
I need you to calm down. Check your blood pressure before and after.
Blood pressure's good, Joey. Go right ahead.
I believe that what Bill Maher did was a good thing.
Why?
And the reason for that is because you need to be able to break bread with the people you disagree with.
Okay, so let me respond to that. Are you? Let's start where the bar is for you. Are you okay with inviting Nick Fuentes and breaking bread with him with Kanye West, a known Hitler lover? Are you? Is that okay for you? Let's just start there because he did that.
You're talking about Trump did that?
Yeah, he did that. He invited Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. So I want to know where your barometer is. Are you okay with the president inviting people like that to dinner, as you would say, breaking bread with a Hitler lover and a Holocaust denier?
I believe Trump did say he didn't know about.
Okay, hold on, Joey.
But I'm also not very familiar with that.
Okay, so Joey, I'm making you familiar, so I need you to pay attention to me now. Okay, so even if that is true, that he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was, that was the week where Kanye West started spouting off his nonsense about Hitler and praising Adolf Hitler. So Donald Trump knew what Kanye West was saying. He absolutely knew that Kanye West was praising Adolf Hitler. Forget about Nick Fuentes for a moment.
Are you saying when he invited him to
Mar-a-Lago? I'm talking about Mar-a-Lago. You're saying you think it's a. You're saying you think I don't have the exact date in front of me, but that doesn't change. That doesn't change.
Trump won.
Hold on. It doesn't change my question. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump 1 or Trump 2. The question's still the same.
I mean, it does.
No, it doesn't actually. No, Joey, I need you to hear me out, okay? You just said you think it's good to break bread with people you disagree with. I'm asking you a very specific question, and it doesn't matter whether it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you're a politician or the president of the United States, whoever you are. Are you okay with Donald Trump, quote, breaking bread with a Hitler lover? It's a very simple question. Why won't you just answer it?
I think you need to have. I don't like the Hitler lover. But I think
I didn't ask you if you don't like the Hitler lover. I'm asking you the question again for a fifth time. Are you okay with breaking bread? I'm using your own words with someone who is a Hitler lover and a Holocaust denier. I'm just speaking in general terms now. Can you just answer that?
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You're okay with it?
I'm okay with it. And the reason why I think there's so much backlash with this Bill Maher thing is because, Brian, you specifically...
Hold on a second. Hold on. Joey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm mesmerized by your answers. So, okay, I'm trying to figure out where your line is. Are you okay with breaking bread with a rapist? You disagree with him. I want to know where... Do you have a bar? Do you have a line anywhere? You're okay with breaking bread with a rapist? Are you okay with that? I'm speaking in general terms. Is there anybody you wouldn't have dinner with?
Let's get off the ad hominem.
No. That's not an ad hominem. It's not I'm not insulting you. I'm asking you a question. You don't even know what an ad hominem is. I'm not insulting you. I'm asking you a question. Are you okay, or would you be okay with breaking bread with a rapist? Just answer the question. That's not an ad hominem. It's a question. It would be an ad hominem if I called you an idiot. I haven't done that, at least not yet. Would you be okay?
Brian, I'll break bread with anyone. I'll break bread with anyone who's willing to have a productive conversation.
Okay, got you. So you would be willing to have a productive conversation with a terrorist. You'd be willing to have dinner with Vladimir Putin. You'd be willing to have dinner with a rapist. You have no morals, sir. You're saying that you would spend quality time with anybody. What if somebody raped a member of your family? Would you still have dinner with them, sir? If they were willing to have a productive conversation? You just said you'd be willing to have dinner with anybody. Answer my question. Would you be willing to have dinner with somebody who raped a member of your family if it was, quote, a productive conversation? Yes or no?
It depends what the conversation is about.
It depends what the conversation is about. So you're telling me if somebody raped your wife or daughter, if you were willing to, if that guy wanted to break bread with you and have a productive conversation, you would have dinner with a man who raped your wife or daughter. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Brian.
No, don't Brian me. Answer the... No, we're not off topic. No, we're not off topic. You said you'd be willing to break bread with anybody. It doesn't matter whether they're a rapist. It doesn't matter whether they're a terrorist, which is an idiotic thing to say. Now I'm getting personal with you because I don't think you have a line that you would draw anywhere. I can't even talk because I'm so mesmerized by you. Would you be willing to have a conversation with somebody who raped a member of your family if they said, hey, I just want to break bread with you and have a civil conversation? You'd be willing to do that, sir?
Can I finish what I was originally
No, I want you to answer my question. No, answer my question.
All right, I will answer your question. Will you break bread with the people?
No. You don't answer a question with a question, you frickin' idiot. You answer mine, you dumbass. Would you be willing to have a dinner with a rapist who raped a member of your family? Answer the question, you imbecile. You don't answer a question with a question. Now I'm getting into ad hominem attacks because I've asked you 10 times. You think it's okay for anybody to have dinner with anybody, no matter what they are. They could be a terrorist, they could be a murderer, which makes you an idiot. Well, let me tell you something. I don't think anyone's willing to break bread with you because you're a dumbass. What do you think about that? That's what we would call an ad hominem attack. That you can't say, geez, I really wouldn't want to spend some quality time with a rapist. I really wouldn't want to break bread and have dinner with a terrorist, even if they were willing to have a respectful conversation. That makes you a deplorable idiot who voted for Donald Trump. Why don't you admit you're an idiot with no moral compass? Why don't you say, hey, my name is Joey. I'm an idiot who voted for Donald Trump. Why don't you say that now, sir? Since we've proven what a moron you are, go ahead, admit it. I'm Joey and I'm an idiot. No. So he says I'm off topic. He started the conversation saying I would break bread with anybody. It started with Bill Maher and Donald Trump. And then I said, where is your moral compass? Are you willing to break bread with anybody? Yes. A terrorist? Yes. A rapist? Yes. I even asked him, would you be willing to break bread with somebody who raped a member of your family, your wife, your daughter? Well, as long as the conversation was civil. No, I'm not changing the subject. I'm just proving to everybody you have no moral compass, you have no credibility, and I could give two Fs what your opinions are, Bill Maher, and I would also be willing to bet not many people are willing to break bread with you because you're an imbecile. Have a nice day, sir. Holy smokes. That's a good way to end the show. And yes, for anybody out there that says don't name call people, no, I'll name call people like that because they're idiots. I have no problem in doing so. Thank you to everybody in the YouTube chat who joined us as well. And of course, pushingthelimits.live. Ron Filipowski from Midas Touch is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. Thank you for the instructor. Trump's FCC chairman is sporting a gold Trump head pin, and it's eerily similar to historical pins from world dictators. Well, the instructor, that does not surprise me one bit. Does not surprise me at all. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you, everybody, for the YouTube chat donations and, of course, pushingthelimits.live, where you can make donations and make purchases on there as well. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located